it's equally as important, if maybe a little bit more important, especially if you have e-commerce Google Shopping clients, to really dive into Google Merchant Center and begin to be proficient in filling out all the best practices, or even like this, using some of these different features that are rather new to enhance what you have on Google Shopping. How's it going, everybody? It's Gene Villanos today from the PPC Cave, solo episode, but Ryan will be joining us next time. Today, we are talking about Google Merchant Center in 2025, some of the best practices or newer features that I like to use or test. So if you're listening to us on Spotify, go ahead and switch over to the Spotify video version, or just hop on the YouTube so you can see exactly what is going on in the account, as all of this will make more sense. So, I would say the first thing that I have been working on is AI image testing. And how you get to this is on Google Merchant Center, click products, click the actual products, edit product, and then you'll see by the image section, there's this little wand. And with that little wand, you can see these little stars, little dots, and you click that, and it'll pull up what I have on my screen right now. And you can create or generate a scene using AI by describing the product. Here is an actual client that I have that I'm working on their Google Merchant Center, making sure all of this and the other best practices are all filled out. And you could tell it a specific product, or tell them to describe a specific scene that kind of goes with the product that you're advertising. And I think it's just really important to have something like this. As you know, in Google Shopping, it's a lot of competitors that have three different criterion. That's your image, your price, and the product title. So you don't have a lot to go off of. It's really important, if you have a feature or way to stand out, that you try it out, even if it's time consuming, because it is time consuming going into a product and describing the product and then telling it a specific scene that you want. But I think the end result of perhaps getting a higher click through rate or just being noticed more on Google Shopping is worth it. And we all know how important Google Shopping is to e-commerce clients. You may not be running a traditional Google Shopping campaign anymore, but if you've replaced that with a feed only Performance Max campaign or just a regular Performance Max campaign, it's super important to be able to utilize Google Merchant Center as a whole, and perhaps AI image testing in Google Merchant Center itself to try to stand out, because anything that we put in Google Merchant Center is used as the data, the baseline fundamental data that shows up on Google Shopping. There's no other way to edit Google Shopping other than what you do inside of Google Merchant Center. So, despite it not being as sexy, or you feel like you're actually doing more work when you're inside Google Ads, creating campaigns, negative keywords, different copies, things like that, it's equally as important, if maybe a little bit more important, especially if you have e-commerce Google Shopping clients, to really dive into Google Merchant Center and begin to be proficient in filling out all the best practices, or even like this, using some of these different features that are rather new to enhance what you have on Google Shopping. So, what I usually do is just make sure that I am describing the product and then the scene. You could be a little bit more thorough than what I have now. It only says Cowboy Western just because I'm being lazy for, showing the example. But when I'm really diving deep, I'm providing 5 to 7, 10 characters to really give a good description of the background. So that's one thing that in 2025 I have been doing more of, even though it does take a lot of time. Next is just understanding you have to build out the store profile. A lot of the times we have some of it built out. Even here, I could do a better job of adding the business logos and colors for the ads. You could see that's just on the left hand side. Go to business info, make sure your details, customer service contact, edit all those things, your payment methods. All of these are going to show up as information in Google Shopping. So if we do not fill this out, there's not going to be enough data that Google is going to pull in Merchant Center through Google Shopping for a specific searcher. And if you have a competitor that has these things filled out and you don't, maybe 8 times out of 10, you're going to be behind or on the other side of that competitor once they're shown on Google Shopping. So understand to really build out that store profile and do as much filling out as you can on Google Merchant Center. Speaking of, if you go up to the little gearbox, you could click apps and services. And then when you click apps and services, there are ad service like Google Ads. Hopefully, you already have that linked, just because if you don't, you're losing out on a lot of things that a lot of data that linking Google Ads and Google Merchant Center will give you. Doing that super important along with linking your Google Analytics. If you have a Google Business Profile, link that also. It says on here Google Merchant or Google Manufacturer Center, Google Display and Video 360. Just link everything that you can. Just because if you could provide more information to Google Merchant Center, the better off you'll be. And underneath that, you could actually click the third-party apps, and I know you could click connect Shopify, but I think that happens on the Shopify app, not inside Google Merchant Center. But then you could connect Deals Discovery. So what Deals Discovery does is give the most recent deals in the promo Merchant Center promo tab that you have in the actual Google Shopping, not app, but the Google Shopping platform. So it'll show all the promotions and your deals. I know there's specific criteria. I think the deal that you provide has to be like over 10% or something like that. And, everyone loves the deal, right? That's why people get on Google Shopping, is to do shopping comparison. That's why you're right next to your competitors when you search your product on Google Shopping, is because you're basically looking at who has the lowest price. So if you could add some of your deals, if you have, any promotions or things like that, then I think that'll just be very important for you to kind of rise to the top and be a little bit more different than your other competitors. And lastly is the store quality. And with Google Merchant Center Next, I think this takes a little bit more time to really dive into the recommendations of what you can do with your store quality so that you're up to par. Just because, like I said, it's really about you and your competitors when it comes to Google Shopping. Like I mentioned, you have three things: your title, your price, and your photo. Those are essentially what's separating you. Or if you have, some of the top quality store badges, product reviews, store reviews, all those things helps contribute. Merchant Center promotions, like I said, all those things helps promote you as a store on Google Shopping. And the only way you can do that is if you get into your Google Merchant Center account and click store quality. And that's on the left hand side underneath the product, shippings, return business info, store quality. This will basically let you know what you're missing out on so that you could either link it or you can, just be aware of it. And it goes through essentially a shopping experience scorecard and how your business compares to other businesses within the area that you're selling. So if you're selling in Australia, it'll show people, or it'll show other businesses as a benchmark in Australia, or the US, same thing. So here you can see it goes through your actual delivery time, and it'll rank you from like not good to fair to exceptional, great, and your shipping cost. I always say this: if you're in e-commerce, and obviously if you're doing Google Merchant Center optimization, you're in e-commerce, try your very best to have zero shipping fee. I know this has been debated in the past. They're saying, oh, well, you don't really need that. You can have your search engine optimization. If your engine optimization is great, or your user experience is great, they're gonna buy from you, even if you have a shipping fee. But if you could just provide zero shipping or free shipping and just bake that cost into the actual price, I can guarantee it's going to be a better experience for you, or else Google would not put it in their shopping experience scorecard underneath shipping cost, right? This specific client does not charge for shipping, so they have an exceptional shipping experience scorecard. But delivery time also is important. And just being transparent with your delivery time is also important. So all these things you could find within the scorecard itself. Even return experience, like your return window. How long do you have until your customer can return a item? A lot of people specify 30 days, but maybe extend it a little bit and show a little bit more grace to the people that want to return, just because it's going to factor in the shopping experience scorecard. If someone wants to return an item and it's been 60 days, but they say the item is in great condition or not even used, I would just let them know, yeah, you can return it. And if it's what you say, then I'll give you free shipping or a free return. So understanding that these things are not only from a user experience of a customer on an e-commerce website really important, but Google, and in this case Google Merchant Center, has actually picked up on it so that they have benchmarks of what really matters, such as shipping, return experience. It's really important just to have that, you know basically in your head at all times, top of mind. Because if it's not, then the experience of the customer begins to drop. And this is another way for Google to compare other competitors to say, okay, well, this Google Ads advertiser in their Google Merchant Center does not have this, but the next competitor does. So, of course, they're going to have the upper hand and perhaps outrank you in Google Shopping. Another thing in this store quality tab is purchase experience. If you're adding promotions, make sure your promotions isn't getting rejected. I know if you've been in the PPC management game enough, you've tried to create a promotion and it gets rejected and you get the email and you just say, oh, I'll look at it later. I'm not going to worry about that. No, make sure that you figure out that promotion, get that promotion up so that it's accepted and not rejected, just because that's also a purchase experience scorecard threshold or rubric, part of the rubric here. And then also, what type of methods do you accept as payment? Do you only accept Visa and MasterCard? Or have you opened it up and done more of the legwork? I know it's extra integrating, creating accounts for PayPal, Google Wallet, Apple Pay, Amazon Pay. But all of these are different ways that a customer is going to purchase your product. And the more ways that you offer, the more methods that you offer to do this, the better off it's going to be for you in the future as you expand to different buckets and segmentations and different people looking at your ads. Not everyone is going to find their wallet, pull out a physical Visa, read out all the numbers, turn it to the back, put in their security code, all those things. A lot of the times, 9 out of 10 times, especially for the younger people, but I'm not trying to be ageist here, even the older people, they're going to have an Apple Pay, Amazon Pay. I use app. All of my methods of payments are on my Apple Pay. If a website does not have an Apple Pay, that does not necessarily mean I'm not going to purchase, but is my experience to perhaps come back, or is if my experience to tell someone else is that impacted? Yeah, it is, because the ease of use is down because you're not offering a payment method that I use frequently. So that's super important. And again, that's within the store quality scoreboard here. Another one is browsing experience. This goes out to my drop shippers. I love my drop shippers, even though I don't really work with too many nowadays. Is usually in-house. You have the item at a warehouse or in-house that I e-commerce clients that I work with. But I have love for drop shippers because I understand the hustle, what they're trying to accomplish. If your supplier that you're drop shipping from only has two images, you're going to lose out. You can see here on the screen, my client has an average on their product page of 9.4 images. 8 images is where you begin to be in what Google Merchant Center deems as an exceptional range. So if you have anything less than that, you go from good to okay to poor. So provide more than 8 images on your product pages, drop shippers, so that you can have a higher scoreboard or a higher browsing experience on this Google Merchant Center scorecard. And it's not only the amount of images that you're offering, are these images high resolution images? I think it's important to state that as well. You could have a lot of images, but quantity does not always mean that it's better than quality. Make sure that the resolutions are high images, because Google Merchant Center will take this into account. And I'm sure they could figure it out on Google Shopping when all of the products are laid out right there next to each other, who has high resolution images and who doesn't. So that kind of goes back to the first point that I have of AI image testing. If you are a drop shipper and your supplier, I'm going back to that first tab right here. If you're a drop shipper and the supplier that you're purchasing these drop ship items, they don't have too many photos, well, you have to create more photos. So a good way is to go into what I said earlier of edit product and change the background, create an inspiring theme to provide more photos, maybe different angles, or even here, just different backgrounds, whatever you can to provide more photos on the product page or in Google Merchant Center, so that that scorecard on Google Merchant Center begins to say exceptional. And if you have store rating, I haven't even signed up for this. I'm ashamed. But if you don't have store rating set up, set that up, just because you could add store ratings to your store and it just provides a better experience on Google Merchant Center. So these are just a couple things. This is a very short episode, but I did want to walk through as a screen capture in a live account of a client that I currently have. And now we know what we have to do to be better in Google Merchant Center, specifically to anyone that's in e-commerce, obviously. But even if you're a drop shipper, there will be always ways to do things in Google Merchant Center to try to get yourself a leg up with the competitors that you show up with on Google Shopping, Google Ads, Google Shopping. So hopefully this was a good and concise episode. If you're a visual learner, I'm sure this is very helpful. But if you do have any more questions about Google Merchant Center, comment on our videos or email us at theppccave@gmail.com. Always know that we release every Monday, 12 a.m. Mountain Time, and we try to be as active as we can be on YouTube Reels, TikTok, IG Reels, or YouTube Shorts, IG Reels, and TikTok. But yeah, we like to do this for y'all, and it just reminds us, as I'm looking at this account, I have to practice what I preach. So, the adage remains where if you teach, you learn twice. So I know me and Ryan love to do this for y'all. And if you have any questions or would like to support us, always make sure to subscribe, like, and comment. But if there's nothing else, then bye for now.